must bother leftists because they always walk away as soon as you recite it.
You have a ton of leftists here who are still standing here.
Well, I've already made a couple leave, but I'm happy to keep
Oh,
talking.
you made a couple?
Well, that's great.
No, but let's get back. Can you,
No, that's quantifiable evidence.
if white privilege exists, why are Asian Americans and Indian Americans wealthier, have higher incomes, live in better areas on aggregate than white Americans do?
I don't know.
Maybe because white privilege doesn't exist.
Maybe, or maybe
Oh,
there's...
maybe it doesn't. Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe skin color has nothing to do with it,
But
and
I
choices
disagree
have
with
everything to do with it.
I disagree with you.
Then show me some evidence, because I just showed you some evidence that it doesn't exist.
What would you take as evidence? What counts for you?
Something that I just said, for example, that the wealthiest
some
people in
numbers
America,
that you made up.
numbers would be nice, historical data,
How about
logic.
testimony?
No, testimony means
testimony
nothing.
count?
I don't care about anyone's version of truth. I care about evidence. I don't care about feelings. I care about facts.
Aren't most of these studies partially based on testimony, though?
No, when you say that Asian Americans are the richest people in America, that's math. That's looking at people's income. That's not testimony.
Okay.
Testimony would be a singular person saying, I've had a tough time. That would be testimony, which that might be true, but that doesn't make it true in the aggregate.
Black people?
I'm sorry?
Is there discrimination?
There's discrimination against all sorts of people.
Yeah, is it worse against black people or is it equal?
Depends what part of the country, it depends what situation. And when that exists,
So if you put it
there's
all
laws to
together,
put
which
people in
one-
prison.
If you put them all together, which race faces the most discrimination in this country?
I would say probably Hispanic Americans in certain parts of the country, even more so.
all of the
But I have no data to support that. You asked me some anecdotal question. I haven't done that much thinking about it. But I'll say this. In America, if you make a sequence of good choices irrelevant of skin color, you will be rewarded for those choices. We're one of the only countries in the world where that is possible, where you can have intergenerational ascension, where your kids can be better than how you are today.
That's like kind of a fallacy.
It's not a fallacy. That's why Asian
doesn't
Americans
apply to
entered.
everybody.
That's why Asian Americans entered in the 1940s as the poorest group in America, and they're now the richest group. The Constitution was not written in Korean, yet they have benefited the most from what people call a white predominant society. Indian Americans, for example, from India, are the second richest per race.
Was the
Category in
Constitution
America.
written in Hindi?
No, that's exactly the point.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Continue.
The point is that people say that our society is rigged for white individuals and white men. The evidence does not suggest that. There's twice as many white people living in poverty today than black people. Now, the rate for poverty in the black community is much higher, but the aggregate number is something that should not be ignored. So the misconception that our country is rigged just for people based on a certain skin color has zero evidence. Yet that is the predominant thing that is being taught in our
When
universities.
did it stop?
What do you mean?
When did it not be rigged anymore? Because it clearly used to be rigged. You're saying it isn't rigged now.
That's a fair point. I'd say throughout the 60s and 70s and 80s, as America got significantly less racist, as we passed the Civil Rights Act, things got more equitable in the sense where better decisions got rewarded more.
And you don't think that there could be a lag effect of 350 years of slavery and 100 years of Jim Crow?
I think those inequities have been more balanced out, more so than it's even worth considering that 350 years of inequity. For example, Asian Americans built the railroad system in America in the late 1800s, early 1900s in America. We put Japanese Americans in internment camps in the 1940s.
Yeah, I know. You did. I've taken history class.
Jewish Americans had an extermination order against them in Europe in the 1940s.
Yeah,
The point
I know.
being is
I've
that
taken history class.
right. So almost every racial ethnic group has had some form of suffering. So to point to something that happened a very, very long time ago and to attribute the inequity today to
It
that.
wasn't that long ago, though.
When was slavery abolished?
Slavery was abolished in 1808. The international slave trade was gotten rid of. But then we actually resorted to chattel slavery, which was where we bred them like cattle.
You're not going to hear me defend slavery for a second. No, I mean,
that's
obviously.
good because
it's one of the great sins of the American. It's one of the great sins of the American story. But you know what's also admirable about it? How we got rid of slavery.
Because admirable about slavery?
No. What's admirable about our history, not about slavery.
Okay. Thank you.
But we still haven't dealt with like the repercussions.
What repercussions would that be?
The lack of the ability for certain people to accumulate wealth.
Such as who?
I don't know, like I was down in New Orleans, right, and I see all these mansions, and it's like those people, they're old mansions, they made their money, they're probably slave owners. Then you go into a black neighborhood and it's like...
But they might have been slave owners in
Yeah,
1865
but they
when the
have that
American...
accumulated wealth that can compound versus people that don't have the opportunity.
Oh, okay, so you're making a fair point that there might be intergenerational inequities. How do you go about that? Well, some people on the left would say, you tax it, you take away from what people used to have. I totally and completely disagree with that.
What do you think? Then what is your case?
Because
how
I
do
don't.
you do reparations then?
There's no reparations. I believe in opportunity.
So those two guys that were there arguing with Charlie Kirk, the one with the hat, I don't think I'd be going out too far out on a limb here by saying that these are probably self-identified socialists, communist, Marxists or whatever, anti-capitalist. The one guy with the hat, basically does look like he's, somebody from the Communist Party. Now, they are being respectful. Although, as I said, the one guy on the right, the one with the hat and the beard, seems to be a little bit annoying or whatever. But at least they're being respectful. Charlie is always, just basically calm, cool, collective. And these guys are peppering with questions, basically saying that America is still systemically racist, that there's still inequities in race, that there's still class warfare, all the typical things that you hear from people that are on the left. And Charlie basically says, well, give me some empirical evidence, give me some data, not anecdotal evidence that, one person saying that this is what's happening. And he points it out, he lays out a couple of points and he asks him, he says, can you give me something from your side that's going to basically say that what you're saying is true? And they're not. All they're basically doing is pulling out things that the leftists usually do from their playing card deck and saying that, racist and bigotry. Now, the gentleman did bring something up. He did talk about that intergenerational wealth. That is, I think you could say that is a factor of slavery. That wealth creation was obviously denied to the slaves. So when they were freed and the generations went on, it was difficult to obviously catch up with the white counterparts that lived here. But one thing should be made perfectly clear is that this was happening in the South. That's why many slaves, after they were freed, after the Civil War, moved to the North, so where they could get better paying jobs, where they could find work. And they definitely succeeded. And Charlie brings in the fact of the point, well, what about the other groups that you want to marginalize, the other minority groups, such as the Chinese, the Japanese, Indian Americans, those coming from India? How come they are Korean Americans? Why is it that Korean Americans, in terms of wealth, per capita, seem to be at the top of the list, followed by Indian Americans, some of the richest Americans in terms of, wealth and jobs? Why is that happening when they're minorities and people of color? And if you're saying this is such a white-dominated, white privilege is existing, where he talked about that there are more whites that are in poverty than blacks, although the percentage of blacks in poverty is greater overall. But so what's happening if there's white privilege? Why is it that the dominating ethnicities or dominating people in terms of wealth happen to be those of different skin color and minority backgrounds? These are all, and he's throwing it back at these people, but they're just not listening. Because the thing is, it's all basically, in terms of them, it's anecdotal. It's stuff that they think is happening. They have no idea about history, nothing to back anything that they say with any type of facts other than basically just saying racism, bigotry, reparations, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, folks, that's what's on tap for today. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Nasir, and if you haven't done so already, we'd just like you to know that this is a show where we try to bring you stuff where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective on what happens when things collide, like Charlie Kirk going onto campus, social media, culture, religion, policy, politics, government, students, they all come crashing together. Let's get back to Charlie Kirk on campus.
Which will never happen, which is a horrible idea. You create a better future.
It'll never happen.
No, because you know why? Any country that's ever tried reparations has failed miserably. South Africa, for example. They've tried reparations the last 30 years. They're more racially divided on the brink of civil war than they ever have been.
You think we're on the brink of civil war?
I hope not.
You think so?
No, I said I hope not.
But I asked if you think so.
No, I don't think we are. But it's people on the left that want us to be more divided than not.
No, I think it's like you.
No.
You're here trying to divide people.
Hold on a second. Do you support black-only dormitories?
Sure.
You do? Okay. That's resegregation. You realize that?
No, I think if black people want to do that, we should allow them to because they have to face it.
Well, then would you support white-only dormitories?
No. I wouldn't.
Why?
Because pretty much the school is white only. Pretty much every dormitory is white only.
I don't know the demographic makeup of Oregon, but looking around, I'd say it's a more diverse campus than just being a white-only campus.
If black people want, yeah.
So you believe in black-only graduation ceremonies at Harvard?
If they want that, sure.
So
why do I care? Why does it bug me?
Well, it should bug you that we're resegregating parts of the population.
There's a difference.
That
It's
people
totally
march in this.
different.
What's the
One thing
difference?
if white people say that black people have to be separate.
What's the difference of
It's
skin color? What's the difference between a white person and a black
I was
person?
trying to tell you.
Tell me what's the difference between a white person and a black person.
No, I'm not.
There's no difference. They're both
No,
human beings. They're only
like
one race, the
treated
human
differently.
race.
They're treated differently.
How are they treated differently? Give me one piece of evidence. What can a black person not do in America that I can do?
They get treated differently by the police, and I've seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though the data shows that a black person...
Data can be used to lie.
So facts don't matter,
Police
essentially.
departments are actually capable of policing their own records, so the ability...
Even though most of the inner city police forces are black majority police forces.
Are they?
Okay,
Such as Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a 44% black city with a 56% black police
That
force.
bugs you?
No, it actually gives me happiness. That
Really?
Yeah, because I care about all people, and I don't look at people based on race like you
So
do.
you're post-racial?
Absolutely.
Because it does.
You're not. You're the one that wants black-only graduation ceremonies and black-only dormitories.
That's not what I said.
You're okay with that? I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, because
We desegregated America.
Because that argument works for you, and it's not desegregated.
It's not.
There's still a lot of problems, and like to say that if people want to have.
But the problems are not based on race.
Yeah, they are. There's
You
tons
have-
of racial problems in America.
You have yet to give me any evidence or data or one piece
Do
of
you
example.
believe that there are any racial problems?
Individually, absolutely. Are there individually committed people that are racist 100%?
Do
And
you
is the
believe
president
that
one
there
of
are
them?
No,
systemic
President
racial
Trump is one of the least
issues?
racist people in America.
Whatever.
Do you
And
believe
don't
that-
like facts.
No, give me one evidence that he's racist.
How about he got caught discriminating against giving out
Complete and
housing?
total false, not true whatsoever.
Okay,
Would-
so
would-
you can not believe facts.
Wait, no.
however you
Would
want.
a
Okay.
racist president such as President Donald Trump put a black woman as the
That
first
doesn't-
Army sergeant
that is not a
ever in the
real
history of the United
argument.
States Army?
That I'm
Would
not
a-
racist because I have a black friend argument.
The first
doesn't
Army
fly.
sergeant?
so at what-
the
That's
first
not
Army sergeant ever in the
Impl-
history of the
fir-
U.S. Army?
the
That-
first
that-
woman,
that's not true.
The first woman battalion commander, you can look
Oh,
it up.
okay, battalion
confirmed by
commander
the
is
United
different than
States
a
Senate.
sergeant.
The first black woman confirmed by the United States Senate in a position of the United States Army ever. Here's a very simple
Okay.
question for you. At what point does someone stop being a racist in your mind?
I haven't thought about it.
You haven't thought, but yet you're quick to label, but you're not quick to retract or have a line in your head. That's pretty dangerous,
maybe
isn't
when
it?
they die.
When they die. That's pretty sinister. Do you think I'm a racist?
Yeah.
Oh, no, hold on a second. He thinks I'm a racist. Why would you say I'm a racist?
Just the stuff you're saying.
Name one thing I've said that's ever racist.
Whatever, I'm not gonna play that game with you.
He doesn't need a hype guy. He doesn't need a hype guy. He's doing good on his own.
But this is what's so wrong with our country, is he's quick to call me a racist with no evidence, no data.
No, the fact that you don't believe in white privilege.
I don't believe in white privilege because I believe in data, facts, and logic.
The ones that fit your point of view, but when I give you a fact,
You haven't
say it's
given me
not
any
true.
facts whatsoever.
Donald Trump discriminated against people.
He did not. The Department of Justice investigated it and dropped the investigation.
That doesn't
Didn't
mean it's
happen.
not true when you're corrupt and you can buy people and pay for shit. We'll see in two.
So when Charlie asked a student a point blank question, at what point does a person stop becoming a racist? And the guy said, basically never. And he said, oh, when they die. Charlie goes, that's pretty sinister. All of a sudden, this person over here made a comment that it's hard to hear what he said, but he's not pointing to him, whatever, in terms of that. And here's the fact when they talked about President Trump, being a racist. This is a president who did the First Step Act, which allowed those blacks that were jailed for crimes that were nonviolent to have a second chance. President Trump increased historically the amounts of money given to historically black colleges and universities. I mean, increased it by hundreds of millions of dollars. So, again, these two kids couldn't give a piece of evidence, just throwing stuff out there and basically just saying, the one kid tried to get Charlie Kirk, this kid right over here, and look at that, with his Beats headphones or whatever they are, right? No capitalism, he's not participating in that at all. I mean, these are just unbelievable. But Charlie Kirk said that President Trump made the first female sergeant in the armed services, and he was trying to catch him in something because maybe he read something. I had no idea about that. But he goes, what do you mean? That's not true. It wasn't the first sergeant. Charlie said, the first battalion commander. And so he goes, oh, okay, all right. Battalion commander. You said sergeant. So see, this is how they try to get you. Semantics, linguistic lingo. And if you don't correct yourself immediately or whatever, you say, oh, see, that's not even a fact. You're just making stuff up. And that's how these people go after you. That's how these people in the mainstream media and academia at university and colleges go after conservatives, go after people that basically say, hey, look, I'm not following your line. I'm not following the illogic that you're basically peddling out there. I'm not following your lies. You can have your perceptions, but that doesn't make them true. And basically that's all Charlie was trying to do. Just give me one piece of evidence, one factual evidence of systemic racism. They can't do it. And they never will do it because there isn't anything out there. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. You all know what to do. Follow our links above and below. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.